Hey everybody, Adam Guthrie here from I Feel Good magazine. And I'm super excited today because I have a special guest who is a very fit lady. And she's done 3 Ironman, one in Japan, Australia and New Zealand. She's just done Kona half, and she's done some ultra events like the 6-foot track in the US. And her name is Tessa White, and she's just gone vegan 2 years ago. So I'm really excited to delve into that conversation with her. So Tessa, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
That's good. Where are you today? Where are you living?
I currently live in San Francisco.
Wow.
In the Marin side of San Francisco. So I'm just over the Golden Gate Bridge in the beautiful headlands that they have here. So,
Okay. Yeah, my wife, she lives there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Is it Marin Valley? Oh,
yeah. So there's Mill Valley.
Mill Valley. That's it.
Which
Yeah.
is literally, I live on the border of Mill Valley and Tiburon. It's pretty stunning.
Yeah, that's where she was, and she's from the UK too. My wife. I noticed you got the UK accent. So you grew up in the UK, yeah?
I did. Yeah. I was a Londoner.
How long were you in the UK? Because you moved to Australia and then to the US.
I did. So I moved to Sydney in '99. We came out for the Millennium celebrations, because my partner at the time, his uncle had moved out there and missed the family. That was the first year he'd been there, and he invited us all out for the Millennium. And my partner and I stayed. Fell in love with the country and went, we're not going home.
So what was it that made you want to stay in Australia as opposed to going back to the UK?
I think the lifestyle. The more I hung out with Aussies that had grown up there and really didn't realise how lucky they had it, the more I realised, we then became husband and wife. We were becoming closer and closer to having children at that sort of stage, and the idea of going back to London and being in a, not necessarily so much smaller flat, but just everything costs a lot more in London to do anything with children, activities, because you've got to be inside a lot more. You can't just bowl on down the beach and take a picnic. It's just not doable. So yeah, the closer we got to having kids, the more we were just like, I think this is the place I would like to raise them. And the easygoing nature of Australians. I mean, I'm not going to lie, the first couple of months I was there, I was like, hello, is anybody there? These guys are way too laid back. What's wrong with them? It's like, oh my God, these Australians need to wake up. And then I actually realised, no, they're actually just relaxed and having a good time. And maybe this is not a bad thing.
It's a good thing. Yeah.
It's a totally good thing.
Yeah.
And it was just a lifestyle change. It took a lot to acclimatise to Sydney lifestyle as coming from London. But the more and more I relaxed into it, the more and more I enjoyed it. And yeah, both my husband and I are sporty. So, the weather worked in our favour.
Well, it's true. The weather, I lived in the UK for a year, and that's where I met my wife. And I just remember the first winter, I'm bald, right? And I swear it started in the UK. There was one day there, I hadn't seen the sun for a month. And I remember sitting on the bed, grabbing my hair that I had then, and I just pulling it out like handfuls. I was going insane that I couldn't see sun. And I said to Roo, man, I'm out of here. Let's go back to Oz. So we came back to Oz, and, it's just beautiful. It's sunny every day. You can get outside and move your body. It's just the lifestyle is so conducive to being fit and healthy and have an active life. And it makes you happy because you've got this sunshine, the vitamin D's on you all day.
It's such a huge factor. We've had a fair bit of rain here in San Francisco this February, March type thing. And people keep asking me when I'm at the gym or at yoga and stuff, I go, oh, this rain needs to just go away. And they're like, isn't it like this in Australia? I go, we have rainy seasons-ish, but it'll bucket it down for an hour. And I said, but the fact is, even in winter, the wind chill factor's there, but the sun is still shining. I said, so I'm freezing my nuts off walking the dog, but I've got sun on my face, and that makes all the difference to me. And they're like, really? And I said, it's the grey that gets me. That's what becomes oppressive. As long as there's blue sky, you know, I don't actually mind that much about the temperature. It's just the sunlight is, you know, and that's Australia.
It is. So you were here for how long in Australia?
16 years.
16 years. And is that, so in Australia, is that where you got the bug to start doing triathlons? And
totally and utterly, yes.
Yeah, tell us about that. How did that happen?
I'd heard of a triathlon before I left. I'm sure I had. Surely I had. Did I even know about them before? No. I went to Nature Care College in Sydney to get a diploma in sports therapies.
I know the one.
And my massage and nutrition teacher was a beautiful girl called Kira Sutherland, who's now one of my best friends, who has a company called Uber Health. And she was an Ironman fan. Her partner, David, is an Ironman elite. He's basically a first podium age grouper in most races type thing. And so they lived in Manly just down the road, and they were part of this crew that cycled, you know, all did triathlon, different levels. Not everyone was elite as her partner, but, and obviously her circle being a sports nutritionist, she was in with a lot of the real athletes. And anyway, they invited us out on the bike ride, and we sort of thought they were pretty cool. And, you know, that was that. It was the slippery slope that most people end up on. Go out with a road bike crew and they all start mumbling about what they've done and how amazing it felt to cross the line in an Ironman. You sort of start going, maybe I want a piece of that.
Oh, yeah. I know the bug.
Yeah.
You know, and the coffee chats after the rides. Yeah.
That's
so
it.
When did you do your first Ironman? From the time you hopped on that bike to the time you actually did your first Ironman, which Ironman was it that you first did?
My first full Ironman was Ironman Foster. I probably did at least 3 or 4 halves before that at Foster. Where was the other one we used to do? I did a couple of Nepean triathlons, so that was the Olympic distance. And Yeppoon in Queensland was the other one we used to go to every year. Wicked, it's a nice half Ironman. It's all around one little hotel, so it's just got a great buzz. The Ironman crew take over the whole of the hotel, so there's just the most ridiculous conversations. It's totally self-absorbed, all about triathlon. You know, just what you need when you're in that race mode of just nobody doing anything but talking triathlon. So I did a couple of those and didn't die. And then thought, no, let's do this, you know, let's do it. And so we did. And that was, so I was, it was like 13 years ago now, that first Ironman.
And tell me through that experience, like the training, how long did you train? Did you do it? Did you get a coach or?
No, I didn't get a coach. I had that many people around me that was pretty easy to jump on their bandwagon. I was very lucky that, you know, the elite boy that I was friends with, he would sort of, you know, lead the coaching crew, and we would cycle up and do our loops of Church Point. And basically, even though I couldn't keep on their wheel the whole time, they would go up, and as they looped back, I would, of course, cut my loop short so that we sort of were always training together and doing our, you know, and then we'd all cycle back to Manly, all dump our bikes at one house, go off and do our runs, come back to the same house at slightly different paces, and, you know, all have a shower and go for the longest, fattest lunch. It was just the most ideal Sundays. And we always used to meet up at the pool on Saturday afternoons. And then during the week, we'd all do our own thing, but we were on the same type of schedule, but we'd just do it obviously fitting in with our lifestyle. I think we probably started training a good 5 months out so that I could get a really nice solid base. And that first Ironman that I did, my husband was doing it for the first time as well. One of our other friends, Rod, was doing his first. So within our crew of people training, there were a fair few virgins. So that was, you know, didn't feel like I was alone for that one.
Yeah, it's nice to have, you know, newbies in the camp.
Yeah, totally.
All moving
solidarity in your naiveness.
Those early morning swims every day, a run and a ride. How did you feel? Like, did you get tired? Was it a struggle with your other commitments in life back then? You know,
I
a lot of time,
did. Yeah, I did get tired, but I was actually a personal trainer back then. So the running portion I was able to tie in with a lot of clients. Swimming's actually my strongest section, so that wasn't too much of an effort. And the long rides are done on the weekend. I didn't have any children. So, you know, you could just go back to bed in the afternoons if you were tired. So there were a lot of nana naps in the afternoon and things like that. And yeah, it was a mild struggle. You know, if I needed to do a longer-ish cycle during the week, and of course I was training clients at like 6:30 in the morning, I had to get up at 4:30 and just get on the wind trainer and sit there in front of the TV watching stuff to get my cycling done.
Just like we've got behind you right now.
Yeah, that's it. The American version, a Peloton bike. I'm hoping I'll have these back in Australia by the time I come home. These are the ones that key into, it's the studio cycling, so it live streams to the New York studio. They're good fun, but they're no good for training anything endurance on, because you're so competitive on the lead.
You're pushing it.
Like all your heart rates, everything. It's just the most ridiculous thing. So at the moment we're going to be doing the Big Sur Marathon in about 6 weeks' time, and we got this for Christmas, and I keep going, we've got to stay off that bike, because we just need to get we need to get time on our feet on long runs, not busting our heart rate and cycling, you know. But yeah,
out the window with the Z training, huh?
That's it, exactly. But no, I had no children back then, so you know, the training was hard. I do remember being really tired at first, and then you really do acclimatise to those long runs, and that you start to understand your pacing, that you know, you don't go out at full throttle, and that you are going to be out there for a long time. So let's just ease into this. And then, you know, amazingly enough, suddenly you're running 2 hours and 2.5 hours, and you just think, I never thought I could even run for this long. But it starts to become normal.
Yeah, isn't it? It's amazing how the body gets fit. Like, you know my story. A lot of people listening to this know my story, but those that don't, you know, I had this heart attack when I was 39. I was 110 kilos. You know, I'm at 78 kilos now. And I couldn't really run a block. Like, it was an effort. I would be puffing and panting. And then I remember, you know, getting to the 5K mark one day. I got this app called Couch to 5Ks. So it's like little interval training. But then all of a sudden, within a few months, I could run 5Ks. And then, you know, then to do 20Ks and 30Ks and 40Ks and be out there for hours, like, it blows my mind. And now, like, just doing a 10K run every day is no effort. It's like, it blows my mind. Did that blow your mind to see that your body adapt to that?
It totally did. It still does. You know, now when I go for a run, I always go for an hour. Like, that's my minimum. Yeah. And I said to my husband the other day, whatever I do, you know, I'm really getting into yoga at the moment and I'm really loving it. And I said, but whatever I do, I want to always just be able to go for a run for an hour, for that to be a normal. Yeah. And for me to always be able to do it. And I said, because I know that our kids are going to be out running when we're older and stuff. And I just, you know, my father-in-law, Marcus's dad, he can come running with me for an hour. You know, nigh on kills him sometimes, because, you know, my pace is faster than his and I don't slow up enough for him. And then he obviously just bullies on through and stays with me. But I used to love it when he would come and visit us in Sydney, and we'd go for a beautiful beach run along Manly, along the cliffs and stuff. I was just like, how cool is this, that my father-in-law, you know, who's 70-odd, is running with me? I know. Just so amazing. And that's what I look to and go, I want that. You know, I just want to maintain that fitness. I don't need to be able to do it every day. I don't need to be able to do it in any breakneck speed. I just want to have that amazing fitness. And, you know, when you've trained for an Ironman or trained for an endurance event, you've given that gift to yourself, and to let it slip would just be such a mistake.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, it's, you know, I've only done the one Ironman. I've got 2020 Cairns Ironman locked in, and me and a few mates are doing that. I'll be 50, so and it's 10 years after their heart attack. So I'm starting to starting to get out there and get that fitness back. But I hadn't run for like a couple of weeks recently, and I just started running again a few days ago after that just little break, and it's amazing how I found when I stopped the running for a couple of weeks, my mood changed. Like it dropped, and I was starting to feel this little slight depression. And then, the last few days of doing runs, I'd run to the lighthouse. I live in Byron. So I run, from Clark's. I've just been doing some small 5K runs, but up the steps to the lighthouse. Do you know it? Have you been to Byron?
Yep.
Have you done that? Yeah. So, I run that, and I tell you, it just feels so good. And then everything, you can feel your blood moving in your body. This high comes, and you're high all day, every day.
Yeah.
It's so important for mental health to keep moving your body.
Beyond 100%.
Especially when you're older.
Yeah. Well, I ended up back, what are we now? So 4 or 5 years ago, I ended up on medication for anxiety and stress was mine. But that's the same as anxiety and stress leads into depression, and it was work related. But obviously once you're on the medication, it's very hard to come off it. And it was only when I got here to San Francisco where, for the first time in my life, I'm not working. And my husband's job is enough to keep us. And we wanted me to be present for the children, obviously not knowing how America would be for them as a transition. That I was able to train for the half Ironman and we trained for a 50K ultra race up in the headlands, which was this ridiculous elevation. And that was the first time I was able to really think strongly about coming off medication, because I knew that the sports I was doing was keeping me level. I knew that was enough. I could increase my serotonin levels enough from that exercise that I started weaning myself off. I went lower and lower and lower on my dosage until I came off, And it was a rocky road, after, because I was still mid-training for the Ironman, and I was a beautiful emotional mess. I'd be out on my bike on a long ride listening to podcasts and listening to these amazing Olympians that had supported people through stuff and done these heroic things, and I'd be there on my bike just streaming with tears, but tears of emotion, of happiness, but I was so connected to my emotional state. And I'm sure that had come from, this time of being on medication and getting to know myself better. And then after the Ironman, I got a bit of an Achilles injury, and I couldn't run for like 6-7 weeks. And I was bombing, I was trying my best to do other things, but nothing was cutting it, because quite frankly, yoga is beautiful and zen, but it doesn't have that heart racing thing going on. And it was amazing to feel that, to know what exercise really does do for me. Of course, I knew it before, but it was affirming it right then and there. And I was like,
it's like the self-awareness that we start to develop over time when you go through some lows and come through those, and you get a different perspective on who you are and how you work and what makes you feel good and what doesn't. And it's like this evolving thing where we end up finding more peace. So tell me, the stress and anxiety. I want to delve into that. How did that happen? Were you always stressed and when you were younger, or did it?
No, not at all. No, well, I'm definitely highly strung in the fact that I have a temper on me, and that's changed a lot over the years. My husband mellowed me a lot. He's a far more calm personality. I have a quick fire temper, just not anymore. I started a business back in Australia called Down That Little Lane, which was a website that sort of curated handmade sellers. So it was like Etsy, but it was curated. When I left, we were bought out by a website called Hard to Find. So that's the equivalent to Google to go, that was what she used to do. But I ran it on my own and on a shoestring, and it was incredibly successful, but it was incredibly stressful. And it was a customer service industry, I was the one that if I heard my phone bing at 5 o'clock in the morning, I was up, because that might be a customer that needs me. and that might be a sale for one of my people in the store, and I was only earning commission off these, but I was so deeply invested in that business, and just a tad too deeply, really, where I allowed it to take over my life. I cared too much about everybody else. And yeah, we went through some rocky times, designers having their designs ripped off by the likes of big high street stores in Australia, and just holding their hands through those and feeling for them. I was too empathetic, really. It was my own, I cared for the people that I was working with far too much, and it took a massive toll on me.
And how did that manifest? I mean, it's beautiful to care, and it's one of the most important things that anyone can do in life. I think a lot of us forget that, we need to care for ourselves. Otherwise, we have nothing in the tank to be able to support and care for other people.
And that was totally me. I had nothing left in the tank. Marcus started working much longer hours and was managing a team in America, which was what ended up prompting us to be here. But he was working the Australian market and the American market. So as you can imagine, he was sort of working round the clock. Yeah. So and he traveled to the US all the time. So I was running a business, started another business, which was a workshops business, supporting the beautiful handmade craftspeople would then come in and teach people literally hand to hand how to do things. And I've sold that business. Well, I partnered with a girlfriend and left it to her when I left, and it's still running in Narrabeen and called Little Lane Workshops. Plug for my beautiful Sonia that is flying high with it, just done an amazing job. And yeah, just one night, Marcus was away, the poor kids were in the bath and had literally just done the normal thing, sprayed bath water everywhere. And I just lost my marbles. I hit the roof with them for, just so unexplained. And my temper was so huge that I put them in their bedroom and closed the door. I just went, that wasn't rational in my head. Yeah. You need to sort yourself out. That was not the way a mother behaves. They were just being kids. They just put water on the floor. What is wrong with you? Yeah. I went to my doctor the next day and said to him, I think I'm a bit nuts. I think I need some help. I'm crying a lot, I feel very down when I'm at the supermarket. When I'm in moments when I'm not working, I'm not happy. I said, so yeah, I'm working to make myself happy because I'm distracted, but in doing so, I'm making myself stressed as well. And I almost don't want my children to come home from school because, then I've got to deal with that and work. And yeah, he just said to me, okay, yes, this is not the way you want to be in life, and this is not good. We're going to start you on some medication. And I didn't want to, because I was like, no, I can tough this out. This is, who wants to be on medication? But, he did the classic of, if you're a diabetic, you take a shot to sort yourself out. This is a chemical imbalance. You just do what you need to do. And we'll talk about coming off when you're ready to come off. But your situation needs to change before you can do that. And so I did. And I'm glad I did. Within a few weeks, I was a lot more rational and able to cope with life in a normal sphere.
Yeah, it's kudos to you for realizing it, especially right, and doing something about it so quickly. A lot of people don't, and it can go down to a dark place.
I wrote a few blogs of me crying before that point. There were a few emotional posts on Instagram of honesty prior to me finally going, yeah, no, this isn't. I think it was actually me snapping at the children that pushed me over the boundary, because being emotional about stress and stuff at work can feel very normal, because you just go, yeah, everyone has stressful jobs. A lot of people have emotional days. But when I lost it on my children, I was like, okay, they're little people. They don't deserve that. No. And their puzzled look. I mean, they were still, I don't know how old they were, 6 or something. And like, they had no idea why mummy just lost her crap whilst they had spun water on the floor in the bathroom, Did it every day. Why was today different?
Wow.
So
yeah, because that becomes very uneasy for kids if they're, you know, if their parents, you know, one day it's all cool to have water on the floor in the bathroom, and the next day it's not. It's like they end up walking around like they're treading on eggshells. And they don't know. They're living in fear every moment. Is mum going to lose it and not? And
absolutely.
so I really respect you for noticing that and going and getting it sorted. And look at you now. You're not even on it anymore.
Not on it anymore. And it opened up an amazing conversation with my children, because the whole way through I was very open emotionally about where I was. You know, if I was having a crappy day, I would actually just explain, Mummy's having a really crappy day and these things happen, and this is why I take those medicines that you see. You know, they're to help me be calm, and sometimes I just don't cope with things. And as they've aged, they're now so aware of mental health issues, and they get it.
How old are
They're 10 and 11 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Teenagers getting there.
Yeah. Yes, I have twins nearly.
It's a whole new world, believe me. All my kids
It's a whole new world. Wow.
Yeah. You know, I, like you, went through a bit of a depressive time, especially when I had focused a lot of my time and effort on work. And I was really focused on achieving. I had this vision I wanted to do, and then I hit that. And then all of a sudden it was like the painting was done, you know, and then I was lost. I didn't know what to do anymore. And I thought, I strived all my life to get to this point, and it's not really what I thought it would be. It was great for a month or so that I acknowledged that I'd done it, and then all of a sudden I was going, whoa, is this all there is? And I found that this loneliness sort of comes about, and then you rev up again to try and keep busy so you don't feel these emotions that are really going on underneath. Does it resonate?
Yes, totally. Yeah. So many people have asked me what I felt medication did for me, and I said medication just pulled me back enough to give me the clarity to see where I needed to go to create the path I needed to create, not the one that I thought I wanted to create. Because work, I would just throw myself into work to make a distraction instead of tackling what I needed to tackle, which was, you know, the balance in my life. And the medication just gave me that much, just lowered my stress levels that I felt like I can do this, I can tackle this. Whereas beforehand it was like, no, I can't tackle this. I'll just keep working so I can ignore it. And of course, working more and more and more just, you know, heightens the issues.
Yeah, totally. So what did you choose? What was your other option? Obviously, it's led to where you are now, which looks like you're living a pretty cool lifestyle.
I pulled back on work. I started employing some other people to help me. And then, you know, work stayed stressful. Of course it did. Nothing changed as such, but I just used my networks better, was far more open and honest with my thoughts and feelings. I actually ended up doing quite a lot of public speaking in Sydney on small business growth and things like that. And the one thing I always got a lot of feedback about at the end of it was how everyone went, oh my God, I love how honest you are, that you've said that, yes, you've made it and you're successful and that you're turning over this and this is, you know, but that it wasn't easy. And that you did cry at night sometimes. And there were times when you felt like you were the crappiest mother on earth, you know, and they were like, this is all these things I'm feeling and nobody else seems to be feeling it. And I'm like, no, they're just not saying it. It's not.
Well, that's 100% true. I don't know any business person that's built a decent business where it hasn't been an easy road. There's always a challenge. It's always constant. It's, you know, their business
success stories.
Sorry?
You often only hear the success stories and they miss out the big chunk in the middle of the stress factor that went from zero to here in such a short space of time. Yeah. And so people just think that that's the gift, you know, that you just need to get the perfect social media shout out and suddenly you're a millionaire, or, you know, it's just like these clickbait stories are 1 in a million and you have to get that perspective. And I think also I realized during those moments of clarity what was actually important to me. That in actual fact, why was I struggling so hard to earn that extra dollar or things like that when I could spend some time with my children or my family or things like that. So I prioritized a lot. I think that's where I ended up. As I say, being open and honest and talking about my feelings was a game changer for me. I'm still that way because I feel that there are other people that are still suffering, and therefore the solidarity of saying, you know, even now I have crappy days, even though I'm not working anymore, you know, everyone has them. It's a factor of life, you know, and anyone who says they don't, you know, is possibly leading an incredibly charmed life. And there are people out there, I'm sure, that are, but they're few and far between. So for the health of our nation, let's all admit that everyone has some really crappy days, you know.
But it's the truth. Life is always ups and downs. That's what I've come to realize. You know, like if today's a great day, that's great, but tomorrow may not be. If you look back over your life, everybody's life, there's always these ups and downs, ups and downs. What I've discovered these days now is, okay, to accept the ups and downs and don't get thrown by them, you know, and just realize that it's okay. It's all part of it. And it's okay to be down some days. It's cool to be up other days. And just, but don't get attached to either of them because neither of them are going to last. I had this quote once, you know, Buddha said, the biggest source of pain and suffering is attachment. So if we're attached to even our emotions,
absolutely.
So, you know, just to accept them and enjoy both of them and realize that that's how life is. I found it makes it a lot easier coming from that mindset.
Absolutely.
So what is most important to you now in your lives?
Totally family.
Yeah.
health and happiness, you know, and happiness not in this abundant form of we have to be millionaires or anything like that. It's just joy in the everyday. You know, I will often moan that my children's sport takes up way too much of my life. And yes, I wouldn't have it any other way because I take so much joy in watching my children play sports and thrive and, you know, just enjoy being part of it. I'm really enjoying shaping two little humans, you know, and having really honest conversations with them about really random stuff these days because they're old enough to ask those weird questions that come out of left of centre and you go, hey, so we're having that discussion today. All right, you know. But
what are all those discussions? Come on.
Look, I won't go down any of the really personal, weird ones. But no, you know, I listen to podcasts a lot in the car. And those always open up really interesting discussions. We were listening to Rich Rolls not so long ago with the amazing Robin Arzon, who's a Peloton instructor, and she used to be a divorce lawyer, and then she, you know, and my daughter just said to me, why do people get divorced, Mum? And I was like, wow, an odd question, you know. And from our mothers group in Australia, we have had a couple of divorces. And so she asked me particularly about those friends, and I said, you know, they were different. One grew apart, you know, and I said, and we just ended up on this rabbit hole of a conversation about how, you know, kids can be a very stressful thing, and some people will thrive when they have children and other people will fall apart because it's actually a really stressful moment in your life to suddenly have these other little individuals in your life that are expensive, that are unpredictable, that you may want to parent very differently, you know, and your personalities change over age and things like that. So, and then other conversations where we're hitting puberty in this household, you know, and I don't hide anything. I have one boy, one girl. We don't hide anything from each other. We talk openly about stuff. And, we've had some very open conversations about pregnancies and sex and circumcisions and all sorts of stuff that's come up. And I'm just like, I can't believe at 7:30 in the morning I'm having this conversation with my two children. But you know what? I am. And it's okay. And why should we not? You know, let's just chat. I don't want them to ever be in a conversation and be sitting there in silence thinking, my mum's never told me about that, like politics, just, yeah. The other night, my daughter and I had a conversation about she's scared of killer clowns. And I said, you do realize that's totally irrational. And I said, that comes from a horror story type thing. I said, if you actually looked into the statistics of how many people are dressed up as killer clowns and killed someone versus how many people were the mailman who'd killed someone, I said, you probably find the statistics. She went, Mum, are you supposed to be reassuring me here? And I went, no, I'm just trying to say that not all murderers come in the form of a killer clown, that it's a very irrational fear that you're having, darling, and we need to. She was just like, okay, all right.
There's more chance of, dying in a car accident.
That's it. I was just trying to say, your fear of being stabbed in the middle of the night is not normal, and yes, safety around crossing a road would be something to be more fearful of. Yeah. So, yeah.
Good on you, Mum.
I have a really active mind, and I love being able to nurture that and, sit and chat openly about stuff with them. And I love us and our exercise, and the fact that my children think that exercise daily is a very normal thing. They think that that's what you should do because that's what everybody does. Yeah.
This is true. Kids model their parents. And whatever we commit to doing and we do consistently over time, they tend to go down that path. Although when they get into their teenage years, it's a different world. But they all end up coming back. I've had the privilege now to be right through all of that sphere, from the kids, the puberty, to the teenagers, even a teenage pregnancy, 16, Bali, half Balinese grandson, gift of green school, Bali. Our kids went there. And, so it's a whole different world. But then, when you stay committed to, a healthy lifestyle, they take that on. Yep. And if you don't stay consistent and you waver in those things, they get a little lost,
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, kids are always asking us, what did you do? Like when it comes to sports and things like that, they go, when Daddy was on the rugby team, did he do this, this, and this? And did you, when you were swimming, were you this, this, and this? Constantly basically comparing what what they're doing to, were we doing the same at our age? And I'm like, yeah, of course we were. And they're like, oh, okay, cool, good. Glad to know that we're shaped, because they do just want to shape themselves on the same path as whatever we were doing. They're like, well, I want to do the same.
They do.
Because
until they hit
teenagers. They can look up to at the moment. They haven't got many other people that are influencing them massively.
Yeah, that's right. And they're like that up until around about 14 to 16. And then they don't want to know you. Like you are an alien to them. So pretend yourself for that one. You're just like, laugh in the heart. You used to love me so much. Where did that gorgeous kid go? And then they come through that, and then it's just so beautiful and magic. The best relationships on the planet, that I have with my kids. I just love hanging out with them. And it's just pretty special once they get through that one. Yeah. So you've recently gone vegan.
We have.
And your whole family has. Why? Why did that happen?
Oh, who knows why it happened. My husband came home one night and said, I'm thinking I'd like to go plant-based. And I went, pardon? Okay. And he had basically been listening to Rich Roll's podcast, and he'd read his book. And he was just curious. But it was a shock, because I'd been vegetarian back in school, but just, I don't know, a phase. It hadn't really worked for me, but that was because I was at boarding school and our vegetarian options were incredibly limited. And so I'm pretty sure I wasn't getting a particularly balanced diet, and I was extremely sporty. So I really did start getting quite weak and fatigued. So I went back to eating meat thinking, well, that must just be it. And obviously the knowledge base was, minimal to zero. So Marcus has been tested for everything. He's never really, we've always gone, oh, are you gluten intolerant? He just gets a dodgy tummy far too often after meals. But we used to keep food diaries and try and relate it to stuff. And we were like, can never really pinpoint anything. So, of course, when he read Rich's book and, started listening to a few other podcasts and looking into it a bit more, he just thought, I think it would be a really good elimination, just back to whole foods, back to basics. The two of us are always interested in just being as healthy as possible. So I didn't poo-poo it. I sort of went, okay, what does this involve for me? And given that we were now living in San Francisco with me not with a job, I quite relished the, possibility of feeling like supermum, that I would be constantly nourishing my family. And, we've always been a smoothie in the morning type family with protein powders and all the rest of it, But this was another step. And funny enough, we actually didn't have any meat in the house at the time. I had some fish in the freezer. And I said, can we finish that up first? Because that's pretty expensive to just waste it. And he was like, yeah, I suppose. I then roused on him for the fact that it was just before Easter, and I had already bought this Reese's peanut butter cup massive rabbit, which has milk chocolate in it. And ironically, he'd eaten it way before Easter, because he does things like that. If there's chocolate in the house, he'll find it and eat it. And I was planning to replace it before Easter, obviously. And then suddenly I was like, well, no, hold on a minute. Now I can't replace it because it's got milk in it. I was like, you suck. You suck big time. Yeah. But other than that, yes, okay, I'm on board. What do I need to do next? And that was it. I just started Googling recipes from that point onwards, and we literally did it overnight.
Wow. So that's 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay, and so it's 2 years down the track. How do you feel now, physically, emotionally, compared to what you felt before you went vegan? Is there a change?
Yes. I would consider myself I've become a lot more holistic. Just mentally, I feel like I've come a long way. Physically wise, yes, we have the classic vegan things of, training wise. I go out and do a long run and I just jump up and do another one the next day. I spoke earlier about after the Ironman, I'd had like a 6 week, I couldn't run because I'd done something to my Achilles. Well, we'd already signed up for the San Francisco Marathon. And I was like, well, I'm going to do it. It just hurt. We did it, finished it, came over the line going, oh, that was like my first city to surf. I was like, found Marcus, he'd come in 10 minutes earlier than me, and we were both tiptoeing around going, oh, I'm not going to like the toilet tomorrow, We got up the next day and went for a run with our kids.
Yeah.
Even I was just like, how does that happen? I really expected to roll out of bed and sort of fall on the floor and be crawling, but even by that afternoon, I could feel that I was going to be okay because I wasn't hobbling anymore and I was walking, and I was just like, wow, there was no magical stretch that I did. That is just where I'm at now. So the recovery, massive. The story I love to tell for kids is that, so Kitty is, both my children are quite tall. My husband, they're both ridiculously tall actually for their age. But Kitty, the sort of 6 months prior to us going vegan, we were here and it was summer. And every time I would go to the swimming pool, she would have a rash vest on. And I was just like, babe, darling, the sun's not that hot. You've put sunscreen on, you're fine. You don't need to wear a rash vest. No. Yeah, okay, whatever, wear your rash vest. I didn't realise she was a little bit bothered about how she looked stomach-wise. She was fine for her legs to be out, and she's a tall bean. And yes, she may have had a little bit of, kids' puppy fat, whatever we want to call it. She was a tiny, weeny bit chubby around her waist. Seriously, nothing that anyone would have ever commented on. 2 months after going vegan, she's skateboarding around my area in a bikini. I didn't say anything. She didn't say anything. It was just obviously the way she felt. And she did lean down. Like they both, my son doesn't need to lose any body fat. The thing's a string bean as it is. But that little bit of, whatever was there just disappeared. It was like she'd been on a detox where she just had stripped. You know, she had a fabulous body before, but it went from there to there. But it was more that just the change in her. She suddenly became body confident. She was, you know, something, whether it was her emotional shift or just the fact that she lost a bit of body fat, I don't know. But it was purely diet. That was the only thing that changed in her life.
Yeah, is the vegan diet. So what does a vegan day look like for you guys? And what were your kids like when you announced we're going vegan? Were they okay with that?
Yeah, they were like, what does that mean? There was a lot of education.
How did you go about that?
Just daily stuff. You know, obviously what was in the house was very obvious because I cook for them pretty much all their meals, and we make lunch boxes here in California for them to take to school. So I adapted up things. And I would show them what I was changing in their lunchbox. We just immediately switched over to almond milk from normal milk, and everything else was just missing from the fridge that had been previously there. And we're very lucky over here. Trader Joe's is clearly aware that there is a huge vegan market. So anything that they can make with soy milk instead of dairy milk, or that they can pull the eggs out of and all the rest, they do. So there were a whole load of versions. And what I would actually do when I was at the supermarkets with them, I'd say, go off and find me some cookies, and go off and find me cereal, go off and find, you know, you can go and buy ice cream. I'd let them go and buy all the naughty things because I didn't want to shove just them to become rabbits, as everyone thinks a vegan is. I say, go find me all those things, but look on the back for me. Make sure it says there's no eggs and milk in this. Obviously, there's going to be no meat or fish, but just look for the. And so it started just teaching them to read labels. And they were excited when they found things. So, look, Mum, these are vegan, you know. And so that was my way of educating them. We went with the rules. We'd discussed what we would do so that it wasn't hard for them when they were out with friends. I said to them, how about if you're out with friends and any menu you're with or anything like that looks too hard basket, try and go pescatarian. Maybe just have fish and chips because you can usually find that anywhere. You know, if you're not that hungry, just have a bag of chips, you know, and we also said, you know, if your friends are having pizza and they're ordering a massive pizza, we can't expect another family to order you a vegan pizza. So have a slice if you want to have a slice. Know that your tummy, after a while, may feel a little bit weird, which in the early days was never going to be a factor, but nowadays it is. They notice. If they have something with milk or eggs in it, they feel a bit weird afterwards. It's not going to kill them. They're fine, you know, but they're very aware of it when they're at school and there's things happening, that if there's cupcakes served in the class, they just don't have one. And they come home very proud to tell me that they didn't have one. And then I probably go and get them a vegan version to make up for the fact that they chose to abstain from it in class, because I'm proud of them too. And really, I then just started looking for all the versions of things that they used to love and making them in vegan form. And the first time I made mac and cheese, they said, I like this mac and cheese more than your old mac and cheese. And I was like, wicked, because it's got chickpeas in it, and it's, I was just like, legend. It's got
so much healthier.
You know? So yeah, and that's sort of the way I've rolled it. You know, we did lots in the early days. We did lots of udon noodles and Buddha bowls and things like that, because I was just trying to get my head around how I could create. And as we've gone on, it's just been so easy. I've just got used to how you create cheese sauces from, you know, even just nutritional yeast and a bit of tapioca flour to make a sticky cheesy, or you know, go down the cashew route and it's a little bit more expensive, but it tastes way creamier. And obviously there's so many options now. You know, the kids just go and buy cheese slices that are vegan cheese slices so they can make cheese toasties. We didn't really miss anything. We thought we used to have scrambled eggs with bacon and avocado on a Sunday. And we were like, how are we going to replace that? We just never did. We didn't try.
You want to know how?
Well, I make tofu scrambles now.
Yeah. Do you want to know the bacon side?
I've tried so many and they never seem to taste quite the same.
This is what I do. Like, I haven't eaten any meat since I was 21. So, I don't know how like bacon it is. But smoked tofu. If you can
Okay.
get on some smoked tofu, you slice it super thin.
Yep.
Sprinkle some salt on it. Pop it into a hot oven until it goes crisp.
Okay.
When you pull it out, you got the smoky and the crispiness like bacon.
I'm gonna have a bash at that because the faking bacon versions are not cutting it.
No.
They are just not good.
Smoked tofu. I'm sure Trader Joe's will have smoked tofu.
Yeah. Oh, they do for sure. Yeah. All right. I'm on it. I'm doing it.
So what's a day like for you guys? You guys obviously went down this path because from your husband's idea to go vegan from a health perspective,
Totally.
you want to experiment with it because Rich was saying how good it is, and it is. And so you went down that path. So it was mainly for a health reason.
It was originally.
Has your consciousness changed in any way? Do you see it from a different perspective now?
Totally.
Yeah.
I am addicted to the knowledge and the learning, and there's still a massive health push. Even, originally it was just just feeling better. Because that was really all we got from Rich in the early days of, how he did his juice detox and how he just felt fat. And so that was the original side of it. And then you start listening to all the doctors and how, all these amazing people that have reversed all these hideous illnesses and things like that, and the longevity of life that comes from, fixing all your telomeres and all the rest of it, all those things. I was like, oh, this is so exciting. The future of possibility, and the idea that my children were getting this from 8 years old, 9 years old onwards. I was like, wow, just you'll be living forever, So educating them in that. And then, of course, you start to look into the eco side of things, and you start hearing the activist stories. And because you're already in it and you're the one that's not eating the, animals, you feel proud of yourself because you just think, well, those activists would like me, And, I haven't become this activist that pushes it all, but I do find it very interesting, my thought process, when my daughter has girlfriends at school that, get upset if somebody steps on a bug, yet they're not even vegetarian. And I sit there and get quite judgmental in my thoughts, but I just go, don't be, because that's not going to help anybody. There's no point pointing that out to her because that it doesn't go down the right path. But love, the kids get so much. And I was actually only saying to my husband this morning, they're now old enough that I want to look up, what's the two, Dominion and Earthlings, that are apparently two. I keep hearing about these documentaries. We haven't watched them. I know that they are a lot more graphic and, and I was like, but now the kids are old enough and they're already vegan. So they've got nothing to be ashamed of. So I think it's about time we watched it, because I think it'll take it to another level and keep reminding them, that there's another side to this, that, mommy and daddy took you here for the health reasons, but you know what? As a family, we're now here for other reasons as well. And everything that we do, we step it up. My husband's birthday's on the weekend and he needed a new belt. So guess what? He's got a vegan leather belt coming, because every time we replace anything, yes, we haven't thrown out. I've got a pair of Ugg boots that I've had for years and they're looking pretty worn out, and I'm almost excited now that they are looking worn out because I'll go and buy a vegan pair of Ugg boots. But it's not like we threw everything out overnight, because that's just stupid and wasteful.
It's wasteful. It's already there. Use it. So much waste. The Ford
process. Totally. The Ford process. My children shop at thrift shops all the time because we talk about it.
They love it.
Yeah. I love it. Mine absolutely love it. Love bagging a bargain, especially if they walk out with a designer-ish item, We went to Tucson for Christmas. How is this for a score? 2 pairs of Hokas, both in the right size for my kids, $10 each. They were like brand new. I was going, who in Tucson runs? And I was like, it must be a sponsored athlete or something that didn't need them. Or I was just like, these are like perfect. And my daughter did look at them and go, oh no, not those platformy things that you run in. And I went, you know what? I'm only asking you to wear them for sports. They are phenomenal shoes. These are the right size. This is a thrift shop. It's a winner, babe. We are not walking out without them. And in actual fact, she's a total convert, of course. She's been wearing them for sports and goes, Mom, they're so good. And I'm like, there we go.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one less pair of shoes that needs to be made again. It's like we overconsume stuff, and it's putting so much pressure on the planet.
Totally.
It's great to recycle and
awareness thing for us, because I have a keeper cup sitting here from my coffee. We had all these things in Australia and we used them, but we would still be taking a straw at a restaurant and things like that. And since we've gone vegan, because of us listening, to so many more podcasts, and you were on Plant Proof, weren't you? That was where I heard you. Yes. Simon arrived on the scene and I was like, an Aussie version of Rich Roll. This is fabulous. And I love that he's interviewing so many Australians, because it touches me a lot more, because obviously it's home country people. But just, we listen to them in the car with the kids. If they're interesting, especially when they're elite sports people or stuff that my kids would look up to, I'm like, they're enthralled by these stories. Yeah. And the education has just taken us that much further towards the ecological side of things and worrying about our planet, not just, as we started, being selfish and just worrying about our health.
That's right.
So it's a feeling of pride now to be plant-based. And I don't shove it in anyone's face, and I don't tell them I'm proud of myself, but I am. Inside, I'm incredibly proud that this is where we're at.
And rightly so, because it does do good. It does good for your body. It does good for, puts the least amount of pressure on the planet from an ecological point of view. And it creates love. Nothing suffers. And that's, I find everyone that starts to eat this way, there's this consciousness, this vibration rises where you see the world in a totally different perspective, a wider view, that you see that nothing has to suffer eating this way. And you start to have compassion for things. And even what you just said there about the girl at school who's not vegan, that was concerned about stepping on a bug, even that is a raising consciousness that we cared enough about that person that we didn't even have to point that out to them.
Yeah. I'm sure I've become a better friend.
I'm sure.
I'm more compassionate towards my friends. I look out for my friends. This is what I mean of me saying I feel like I've changed mentally. I care more, plain and simple. And it's not just care more about my health or the animals. I just care more in general about everything. I try and smile at people all the time. I'm always, passing out random, compliments to people when I pass them. The other day I went running and there's these two old men that wander down to the coffee shop every day, and I see them, and I usually see them when I'm passing in my car, and they make me smile. I don't know if they're brothers, if they're a gay couple or what. I have no idea, but every day I smile because I can see their friendship. And the other day I ran past them, and as I was running past, I thought, I've got to take my earphones out and tell them. So I said, you two, I need you to know that you make me smile every time I see you together each day. And they just went, oh, thank you so much. And I went, it's my pleasure. Put my earphones in. I was off again. I thought,
you legend.
London, I would never have done that.
No.
I would have just kept on running. I don't know if I would have even thought it. I don't know if I would have even taken pleasure in seeing them every day. But these days I do. I take pleasure in seeing other people's happiness, and I take pleasure in offering that little, that little conversation topic that might brighten their day. Mm. And I just really feel that that's not the person I was before.
Mm.
And I sit there and think, surely that can't just be that I'm only eating plants. But it's a change that's happened since I started only eating plants.
Exactly.
It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah, and, I talk to a lot of people, like we're having this chat now, and it's the same. Every single person, it's a common thread that they naturally become kinder and more tolerant and have more compassion for more things. And it's just an amazing benefit of being vegan.
Yeah, it's a blissful thing to happen. I'm certainly not complaining about it. I just get fathomed sometimes about it. I'm like, how did that happen? Yeah. How does that happen? I don't get it, But I don't care that I don't get it.
No. Have you come across Osher Gunsberg?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Do you follow his podcast?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes.
So, it's interesting, with I've been on his podcast, and it's interesting that, he had mental health issues. He's just written a book on it.
Yep.
But I was chatting with him, and he was saying that, he wanted to get off the medications, and his doctors said to him, there's 3 things that you need to do. His doctor and his psychiatrist said, the first thing you need to do is eat 100% whole food, plant-based diet. Because what happens is when you eat that, your microbiome in your gut that loves plants grows really long. And that microbiome is the microbiome that tells your brain it's okay to be happy. It raises your serotonin.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you need to do is move your body every day until the endorphins kick in, so that you're on this natural high throughout the day. And number 3, you need to meditate. You need to be still and you need to pause. Yeah. So he manages this with those 3 things, and he's off all meds. He has been for over a year.
Yeah.
And he said it doesn't mean that he has bad days, but he is aware of it and can manage it so much better. Yeah. Such a powerful thing. We've got the choice every single day, to pick up food with our hands. We eat a few times a day, yeah? And we've got that choice. When you pick up food that actually damage our body, make us depressed, create pain and suffering in the world, and destroy the planet. Or we can use the same hand to pick up food that actually nurtures our body, makes it super healthy, makes us happy, creates less pain and suffering, and does good for the world, the planet. Like, it's a no-brainer. I'm so pleased you've chosen this route that your husband came home and said.
It's an absolute no-brainer. I did Simon's Plant Proof 40 last week.
Oh, great. Excellent.
Getting 40, the first few days it's so easy. And then towards the tail end, I was going, okay, I need to get out there and just pick up a few different random pieces of fruit because, I eat very similarly each day, and my raw salads are the same sort of base but with a few different bits, variations. So I was like, because I eat at home every day and I eat the same thing, that means that I can't double dip. So I've got to get out there and get some more things. But I loved it. And my husband did it too. And I've actually been trying to do it again this week type thing, because I was like, this is wicked. Each week, obviously I'm going back to the same things because I'm starting again each week. But I thought, I know that towards the tail end of every week, I'll have to go out and find something new. Yeah. And that's just fun.
Oh, well done, because that's the thing, it's the variety. I've got a very good friend who's a naturopath, and it's Simon. He's going to lead down this path. He's warming everyone up, but it's 30 a day. 30 different plants a day is the ultimate for the best gut health. And it's very easy to do on a whole food plant-based diet. If you use leaves, a mixed batch of salad leaves, there's heaps there. I cooked a dish last night. I did a class and a talk last night on the Gold Coast, and I did a burrito bowl. But in that burrito bowl, I put ended up being 5 different beans in the burrito.
Yeah.
Actually, no, it wasn't. There's 4 different beans in the burrito bowl in the mix. There's capsicum, there's cumin, there's coriander, there's onion, there's garlic, just in the bean mix. Then there's the lettuces. There's about 8 different lettuce leaves. And then there's the herbs. And then there's the cashew sour cream that had 3 elements in there. And then there's chili. And just in that, there's half. Just in that dish, there's over 15 different ingredients. And they're all plants.
I said to my husband, if I eat a raw salad for lunch and do a cooked dinner, then it's really easy, because the things that I put into a cooked dish are so different to the things I eat raw type thing, So suddenly the dinner is, as you say, I was doing whole grains and beans, and I made a chili with loads of different things in it. I was like, oh my God, the amount of things that went into that chili is ridiculous. So
it's very easy to do it. So what's your day look like in regards to food, your family? Breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, how do you eat?
We're different between the 2 of us, as in husband and me and kids, because the kids get up and I either make them oats with hemp seeds and things in them, or I do them a protein shake, just depending on the morning. And I actually don't eat breakfast. I go out and train, and I usually don't eat till 11:30, 12.
Me too.
Yeah, break my fast. Then my lunch is a ridiculous raw salad bowl, you know, always a base of kale and spinach. And then literally it's, you know, sauerkraut and whatever else I've got chopped up already that, you know, yeah.
Fantastic. That's how
I reckon there's usually about 15 things in the bowl, you know, and I don't use salad dressing. I'm not a massive chili spice type person. So sriracha, whatever. Yeah, not in my plethora, even though it's most vegans' joy juice. I tend to just put Bragg's liquid aminos, just a little bit of that over the top to give me some saltiness. And then dinner is, if the kids have been playing a massive load of sports, then I tend to do a mac and cheese because it's a decent carb laden. But if not, we are lots of burritos or chilies with a bit of brown rice. The kids actually, one of their favourite, and it's still one of mine, and we laugh that we get so excited over it, is just steamed veggies with brown rice. And traders do this amazing soyaki, sort of teriyaki mixed with soy, you know, and I literally just put a couple of tablespoons in, water it down so it's got something to soak into the rice. But it's basically just steamed veggies, and we do carrots, broccoli, zucchini, and peas. And they just hoe it down, and I'm like, that's us. I'm like, how simple did my life become? Yeah. It's so yummy.
It's so yummy.
And the kids go to school with lunchbox, so theirs is always their mornings. I try and get them. We get these wicked vegan cookies that are just totally nut based, so that I can keep them. And I tend to do actually their sandwiches tend to be peanut butter and jelly and stuff, because I'm just still trying to. The two of them are growing so fast. I'm like, get as many nuts in there as I can, and then they just literally go in with fruit and, you know. I usually chop up a cucumber or cherry tomatoes get shoved in. Yeah, they don't. And of course, Vegemite sandwiches.
Yeah, the Vegemite is so good.
So yeah, that's what they go to school with, and it's amazing.
From the Marmite to Vegemite, that's impressive.
I did, and I haven't looked back. It's funny. I try sometimes when I'm back in England, I taste Marmite and I go, oh, that's so salty. Vegemite tastes like crap, and I'm like, yeah, it's a weird acquired taste, but it's one that I love now, you know. Yeah,
very good. Yeah, here's a couple of ideas too for your salads. One of the things I love for dressings is just avocado and lemon juice. So I just like massage that avocado into the leaves, squeeze the lemon, and put a little bit of salt and pepper. And man, it's so good. And then at dinner, I'm like you. My favorite thing in the world is just a bowl of steamed greens and red rice or steamed veggies, and you know, same ingredients that you have. And then tahini, a couple of blobs of tahini, lemon juice, salt and pepper, and I tell you, it'll blow your mind. Give that one a go.
My husband's favourite thing that I make is I call it my bean salad dressing, because I make a version of a hummus, but I just water it down massively so that know, we're not going huge on the calories, but we can just absolutely douse it everywhere. And he loves it. He just goes every single time. It just makes the dish, because we've gone from, you know, what is essentially rabbit food. It's like, if you looked at what you put in here, we've got plain celery that's quite watery, and, you know, the heirloom carrots out here are amazing. But, you know, he goes, I'm really happy to chow down on a bowl of kale, basically, because you've made this dressing that is just so delightful. So, yeah.
Do you guys crave greens, leafy greens now?
Yeah, that's the freaky thing. I mean, as I said, when I made, you know, I steamed up this cauliflower and broccoli and all the rest of it the other night and put it just on brown rice, and everyone came out and went, oh, my favourite, Mum. I thought, who are we? Where did this family come from? That our favourite thing is cauliflower, broccoli and zucchini steamed, of all things, not fried, not battered, not, you know, shoved in oil with a whole load, just steamed, clean. And then, bring it.
Yeah.
Like,
wow. I'm so really stoked for you.
Yeah.
Well done. What a great journey you've had. I'm so pleased that, you know, the vegan diet, the whole food plant-based diet is really, you know, resonating with you, and you're noticing so many positive changes and benefits from it. And your family, and the fact that you're doing your family and you've embraced that, and they've embraced it, it's super good, you know.
Yeah, my next curious thing will be whether they stay with it when they move out of home. But these days, kids seem to stay around so long that I think I'll be in control of it for a while to come.
Yeah, well, our kids grew up vegetarian. They grew up. We were vegetarian. I was vegetarian since 21. I only ate cheese and dairy. It still was enough to give me a heart attack. Okay, so but with our kids, one of them went vegan with us. The other one didn't. She just wanted to stay vegetarian. So she has her little part in the fridge over here that has her little pieces. And I don't force it onto anyone. I think everybody's got the right to choose. We just don't. There's a rule in our house. We don't have any meat. But if they want to eat their dairy, go for it. If they want to eat meat when they go out, they can, but they don't. They've actually chosen to be vegetarian.
That's exactly the same as we said to our kids.
And one's vegan. So, you know, when they leave home, they have tried meat. Like they've eaten meat when they've been out, not with around us, but they have. But they've chosen they didn't like it and they didn't want to eat it. And so, you know, they'll try it. We all do things, you know. They may not. And they'll just stay this way forever. How would you feel if they did go that way?
I think I'd be fine. You know, I mean, God, I was for so many years of my life. I wish I hadn't been, but that's just because I know how amazing it feels.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's an interesting process, and that's why I want to keep educating them and to have them watch, you know, the documentaries that take it to the next level, so that it keeps them emotionally invested, rather than it just being something that mum and dad has said is healthy for you, because, you know, mum and dad are often wrong, especially as we get to certain ages, as we've discussed. So the idea of them wanting to be rebellious and go against us just for the sake of going against your parents, I'd love for them to have this, you know, other avenue that digs at their heart, rather than just, you know, just do this because mum and dad tell us not to.
You're such a good mum.
I'll try.
It sounds like you are. Like, you know, you're compassionate and you're caring and you want the best for your kids, you know, and you're really giving them that opportunity, which is, you know, inspiring. So
I'm lucky. We get on really well. So that's you know, they're very open with me and very honest. So,
well, Tess, thank you for taking the time to have a chat with us.
My pleasure.
It's been pretty inspiring. You've got an amazing story.
And right back at you.
I'll link everything, all your details, so if people want to contact you, check you out, follow you on Instagram. I know you've got a really nice Instagram, and I like following you. And, they can check it out. So thanks so much for being here and being part of the I Feel Good community. Cheers.
Thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure.